Hello everyone. I am discussing what happened with what's going on right now in my life and what happened at work. As you can tell by the title, I think I got through to people. Okay, so I know I've talked about it a little bit before, I work for an interpreting company, medical interpreting. This company is growing like exponentially, and anyway, long story short is I work at the headquarters office, which is based here in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. And I manage the call center. I'm the assistant manager. That's another whole story. But I wanted to tell you more about, I want to try and stay on topic, so I'm not going to try and divert myself into everything else that's going on with work, but I will go on to just this. So this video is going to be a little bit about both sides of my path, or my path is kind of wide, you know what I mean? I feel now. And so I feel like I've combined two things, but not really combined two things, and I'll get there. So, being at work, we work in a really multicultural, multi-religion, really diverse group of people, if you can imagine. We have 75 languages in video, and that's where we do in the center. We also have audio, where we have people that work from home over the phone. But most of the people, it's kind of even, but we have a lot of video interpreters, especially during the week and during the normal hours, 8 to 6. So that being said, you would think that there would be a lot of understanding. I mean, there's a lot of cultural understanding and a lot of learning that happens because you're around people that you don't really know about. I mean, people coming that are refugees, people that are from war-torn countries, people that have immigrated here to get away from stuff like that, but that were doctors and highly educated people in their previous country, but when they come to the United States, for instance, those don't always carry over, and so they have to, sometimes it's just they have to take some kind of refresher, and sometimes it's they need to reschool, and sometimes they're like, you know what, I already spent 8 years of my life in college and going to school and whatever, and to become a doctor in my country, I don't want to go for another 8 here, or another 4, or another 6, or whatever it is. So they do what they know, and most times in most of these countries, they have learned English as well as their other language. Some countries have learned, are forced to learn a base language, and then they have their own dialect. So like, I know sometimes a lot, the religious language is formal Arabic, and then, you know what I mean, then they're taught, then they learn other, wherever they are, kind of thing, but everyone is taught this language, but then they have their stuff. Anyway, so you would think that it would be very diverse, and then I've experienced this thing lately, and I kind of just write it off because I'm used to it, is that people question veganism, and they question, and I have explained my spiritual beliefs to some people, and I don't hide it, because I figure that my religion, I would use brackets, or my spiritual beliefs are just as important as everyone else in that office. And we have everyone from being, from Christians to Catholic to Muslim to atheism to whatever. So I'm really, Hindi, Buddhism, all that kind of stuff. So there's all these different varieties in there, and I don't necessarily know if there's anyone that considers themselves pagan other than me. But I'm always on this trying to describe my belief system to someone, and labels help. So I was kind of like, for a while I was down on pagan. I was like, I don't know if that's me. I don't really believe that, because I'm kind of more evolved than I love the old ways. Don't get me wrong. I think that the purest of some things are great, but when you put human into it, things can get warped and corrupted and changed. And what we used to think was okay, we know now to be horrific or atrocious. So I like basing off the old ways, right? But I also know that I'm not a mindless drone, and we have learned from our mistakes, and where my progressive, whatever, I don't know what term you want to use it, way of thinking with that, you know what I mean? So that it matches. So I think the term neo, I know some people were like, ew, neo-Wiccan, neo-pagan, those are, it's all, they were using it kind of as a derogatory term, and I embrace it. I want to be the newest version, the most, you know what I mean? I want to evolve in my path. So anyway, that being said, is I always get side comments or people. I mean, it's one thing when people are inquisitive and they want to understand my way of thinking about my diet and being a vegan, because it's not about just diet. It sometimes, different people get to that point different ways, and there's different roads that are involved, or different paths, if you will, about how you get there. But when somebody becomes vegan, it's like you have this awakening. I'm not saying everyone's there all the way, but I'm saying that you generally, it starts to become, you know what I mean? Because you can have a plant-based diet and not be vegan if you're still exploiting animals in other ways, like for entertainment, for clothing, for their skins, for, you know what I mean? Fill in the blank. So I don't think that everyone is necessarily vegan just because you're not eating animal products. You know what I mean? So there's different levels there, but I think for me, with the term vegan, I don't believe in these like category. I'm a level 1. I'm a level 2. You're either vegan or you're not. And so that being said, I'm going to reel it back in. Is that I'm used to having backhanded comments, or backhanded compliments, I should say, or either one, and just some really cop-out things like, oh, I could never do that. I love pizza. I love dairy. I love cheese. I love meat. I'm a meat eater. I like the taste of meat. Blah blah blah. And I don't usually get involved in, especially at work, in those discussions, because I don't think it's the appropriate time. Unless I'm on break and we're sitting and then they bring up something that is incorrect, I will try or they question me. You know what I mean? If we're having a discussion, it's one thing. That was weird. Sorry, I just had back spasm, which is weird, and I thought maybe I was sitting weird, but sorry about that. I think it's because I'm holding my arms out. So if it's a discussion, yes, I'll talk about it, or I might correct them if they are trying to come at me with incorrect information, because there is a way. Now, I'd have to say that I am not comfortable being a verbal debate, speech-giving activist, you know what I mean, for veganism. Everything I've learned, I'm learning by research and watching other people's research and watching YouTube and stuff like that. But I always try to find the people that are not just being superficial. You know what I mean? Yeah, because people when they're interested, or even when they're disagreeing with me or disagreeing with my belief system, is that they need facts. So I have to prove my case, right? And I'm not totally comfortable in doing that, because when people become aggressive with me, my first reaction, I try and remain super calm. And I could probably really do it if I was like ultra confronted with it. But I'm still not yet like ready to put myself out there to be the one doing it and then waiting for the retaliation to come back. I'm okay with giving it when it's already coming at me. You know what I mean? But I don't know if I'm like going to bill myself as a speech giver yet. Might be coming up very soon, and I'll explain that in a second. So, but at work, I noticed that there's these backhanded comments, or kind of joke. People will be inquisitive, and there's a couple people that will, I don't know how you do it, blah 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 blah. That's crazy, kind of talk. I'm a meat eater. I'm going to keep. You mean I like to taste the meat? That kind of attitude. And I've been there. I was there. I tell you, it's like a few years ago when I decided to go down this road and see what it was about, and then do it. Afterwards, it was like waking up, like from a bad dream, or or into a bad dream, if you will. So it's really like my spirituality had started it, but it was like this just open it up, and you get to, not only do you feel like a lot more enlightened, but you're also more awake to the atrocities that are happening, and you just can't believe how did I ignore that? How did I believe this lie? Anyway, so the backhanded comments today one of them just caught me off guard. So anyway, that's the argument was basically that argument, like I like the way they taste, I'm not going to change, I'm too picky of an eater, kind of thing. And it kind of made me mad today. And so I was like, oh yeah, and I said, the taste of them are great. Never, if you don't mind having cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. And she's like, my grandmother lived to be 98. And I said, how many medications was she on? What did she die of? And fill in the blank, it was all above. It wasn't like she oh, I lived to be 98 and I passed out. She wasn't very well. And so, but I dropped it because I was on my way out to come home and let my dogs out and eat and go back to work. So I always leave for work so that I don't have to kennel my dogs or anything like that. I like for them to be able to, be out. So if I break my day up and come home, then I don't have to do any of that. They won't have accidents in the house. So basically, I stewed about it the whole time I was home today. And I was like, that... I said, I've had it. I'm truly offended and pissed off. And then I kept thinking, you know what? I work in this hugely cultural, diverse place. And they're all accepting everything. But why do I feel like I'm being attacked for this? Why are these backhanded compliments coming at me? And I didn't provoke it. It wasn't like... it was like two people walked by my cubicle, because I happened to be out on the floor training today. And two people walked by that, and I was the only one there. My trainee was gone. And that was what I was like, I felt like, first of all, how did I get dragged in this conversation? I wasn't even part of it. And why is it a joke? Why are the three of them joking as they walk by and saying side comments to me? So like I said, I stewed about it when I got home. And I was like, you know what? This is insensitivity. And I'm like, how can I address this and make them understand that it's inappropriate? I mean, I could just bark orders, but one of them's a little bit above me, authority-wise. So I was like, well, how can I, but she's new. So I was like, how can I address this issue and help them to understand why this is inappropriate? So I stewed, and I was really, really mad about it. And I was like, these people, if I was to say something about somebody's religion, and then I was like, you know what? But it is a part of my religion. It's part of my spirituality. I truly believe in the golden rule, or you know what I mean, or as we and harm none, or do unto others, or reap what you sow, or karma, blah blah blah. I believe that. I truly believe that, and I and in me constantly researching how to be the best I can be, and follow the cleanest, best path for that I've chosen to be on. Part of that is me discovering that I should be vegan. And why should that differ between anyone else's beliefs? Why should that be, why should I be allowed to, or constantly have to defend myself, or be joked upon? You know what I mean? And I don't think they were doing it to be malicious. I really don't. I just think it's just something. It's easier to make somebody else look like a dingbat, so they don't have to reflect on what I'm saying. That they know I'm right. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to approach it from the aspect of the diversity of the culture and how this is really inappropriate, because I'm vegan, okay, but I apologize. I had a little bit of a glitch. My camera just froze for a second. That's why I stopped talking too, because my picture froze, and then I was like, what in the world? And then I had to figure out where I left off. So, I itch. So, I'm vegan, but there are, and you might say that's a choice, that's your choice. Yes, it's my choice. It's also my spiritual belief. And if really horrible people can use that, my deepest religious belief is fill in the blank, and that atones for me doing horrible things. At least I'm doing it for something positive. So I was going to explain to them that there's people that work for us that are from whole countries where people are vegetarian. They don't believe, India, they don't believe in eating meat. It's a religious thing. You know what I mean? There's no religion that mandates that you kill and eat animals. There's none. Now there might be some verbiage and some mainstream that says that you should eat this, blah blah blah, but you have to remember that was written by some guy who had his own agenda, whatever. And I don't follow that. It's not holy to me, so I don't really care what that book says, right? And I've said that before. I think it's horribly written fiction. So I don't mean to diss anyone's beliefs, but that's for me, and that's how I think about it. But I think that my approach was going to be trying to explain it in terms that they understand. And what they understand is the cultural diversity. Now, the new person probably, it's all still new to her, and so she doesn't get the diversity, that she still has that way of thinking. I'm sure if you come from outside and you're not super educated in the diversities of cultures and stuff, I mean, I can't speak for her, but I'm already getting the drift that it's all really new to her and really confusing, and might even have to reel in some preconceived notions, you know what I mean, and prejudices. But that's how I was going to approach it, is, look, this is not only my belief, or not people that are just waking up and understanding that the meat, dairy, and egg industry are horrid for the environment and horrid for your health, and you don't have to, you can actually be healthy and cure a lot of the main diseases by being vegan on a whole food diet. More and more people are waking up to this. This movie, What the Health, that came out has really changed. At work alone, I have 2 people that have already changed their diets, and they were nothing last week. So it was this week. So it was a week ago, today's Friday, so a week ago, one of them watched What the Health, and on Monday told me that he's been vegan for 3 days, which is amazing. Not vegan, he's plant-based, because I had to retell him that because he's wearing leather and blah blah blah. And I don't think anyone should just, you can't just, and at that point the conversion's the biggest thing. It's awesome that you're doing that, and later the ethical thing will come in. He's doing it for health, so you know what I mean, the later the ethical part of it will come in, and he'll start to understand the more because he's constantly researching and watching movies. So that's happening at work, and so that's how I was going to attack this issue with these people. But the amazing thing is, by the time I got back, I think they got the point that I was upset by it, because they came into my office and talked to me about it. The person that I really didn't like her comment, was the first one to come in, and I was kind of watching James Aspie's latest video, and I was watching on my phone, and I was back at work, and I was eating, because I got home today to eat, and realized I don't really have anything. I have like bread. So I was like, I don't have time to go to the store, so I'll just stop. And I stopped at Portia's Cafe, which I've filmed some videos, and I think I didn't make them into anything. Unfortunately, I will. I just get really picky, and so then I'm like, I'll delete. Anyway, so I went today and I got it's called the Great Tofu Wrap. They make a gluten-free tortilla. They make it fresh there at the cafe. So she was looking at it, and it reminded her of something. It's the color of the, I don't even know what it's called. I'm horrible, I should know. But like, she had seen something similar at an Ethiopian restaurant, where they have the big piece, and then they break it off, and they dip it in all the different veggie stuff like that. It was kind of, that's what she thought it was. And I was like, well, it's actually a gluten-free tortilla. They make it fresh there. It's all organic. She said, well, what are you eating? And I said, it's called the Great Tofu Wrap. And I said what was in it. She didn't like some of the ingredients, but that's when she had said that she was a picky eater. But she was asking me she said, so you're vegetarian? And I said, no, I'm vegan. And she was like, whoa, vegan, and I said, well, I said, some people might think it's extreme, but I don't think it's extreme at all. And I said, and for me, it was a really easy transition. And she said, well, she started questioning me, how did you become vegan? And I had to tell her my story, which I will make another video and explain again my past. I know that I've done it in little bits here and there, but I need to make one, because I've been really kind of cryptic about my past, and I just want to lay it all out on the table, but that's another video. So I basically did a fast track version of what, this is where I started, and then I started exploring my spirituality and my belief system, and I wanted to live something that was really close to that I was attacked it from a health point of view, because I was asleep as far as the cruelties go. I just didn't understand what was going on. I mean, I guess I kind of did. You kind of go, I knew that was happening, but I didn't know it was that. You know what I mean? It's just because you don't want to know, I think. And so I explained all that, and then, but that's how when I attributed it. So I'm shaking my camera. That's when I attributed it to my religion, and I said my religious beliefs, because I said my spiritual and religious beliefs. Ours is that I am vegan, that I need to be vegan to live in accordance with what my belief system is, that I shouldn't cause any harm. And I even said that I ain't harm none, that I do as you will. And I said, but that's also in other religions, do unto others, reap what you sow, that kind of thing. And she started nodding, and she got it. And I said, so that's why I am. It started out, I wanted to be healthy, and I knew that fad diets were fads, and people were trying to make money, and they were for quick losses, because people become really bored or disillusioned or whatever when things aren't quick, especially these days. So that's why they can sell all this stuff and tell you all this stuff and do all these infomercials and sell you all these products, because you might have immediate results, but as soon as you try and go off of it or you try and cheat, all of a sudden your everything comes back. So I said I knew that from the get-go, and I wanted to make change, but I did attribute it to my spirituality. Now she didn't. I was hoping she would have asked me, because I would have probably said I'm Neo-Wiccan, or New Age Neo-Wiccan, or New Age Neo-Pagan. I would have probably went with any of that, any of those three. I think it's because a lot of my practice, I did pick up a lot of things that I thought were really cool. I like some of the structures from Wicca, so I don't know if I'm what the original terms were. You know what the Blue Book, you know, or even some of the you know, like Wicca, Scott Cunningham. I don't know if my definition fits their definition, but I think it's so far evolved now that basic, you know what I mean, if you boil down the basics, there's always going to be shoot-offs. The purity British traditional thing is still there, but there's going to be all these shoot-offs, because not everything you do is everyone going to agree with, but they can agree with different things. And I don't think that's a bad thing. So, in trying to help other people understand where my position is, and I think it would be easier at work to attribute it to a religion and name it as, not that I'm trying to like water it out by saying, you know, New Age Neo or just Neo Wicca or anything Wiccan. But if they question me more when I use that label, then I can explain my position. And I think it's easier to say it that way than it is to say I'm a witch. Because there's so many other facets that come into play into the overall picture. Yes, I'm a witch. I consider myself an eclectic witch. But there's other parts now. My spirituality part comes into play, and I'm attributing it all together. So I think by explaining it to her in terms that is my sincerely held religious belief, that this, you know, that I'm trying to live to those expectations that I have set for myself. And then I explained that, you know, there are other whole countries that are, their religion is, or in their lifestyle is vegetarian, and that more and more people are feeling this way. And I think it helped her understand. Now I just have to get to other people. Okay, so that was that story. I really think I thought for her to come in on her own and start asking questions after that whole incident, which was, you know, less of like a second, or a few seconds, was awesome. She kind of came in and was like, didn't have to apologize, but that's what I feel like it was for. Which is awesome. Maybe that I helped to open their eyes a little bit, because she did sit there and she started understanding when I explained it in ways that she understood. You know what I mean? I wasn't attacking. I wasn't trying to be defensive. I didn't start citing all these health stuff, because she didn't want to hear that part. But when I started explaining it in terms of spirituality, she got it. So, like I said earlier, that movie, What the Health, has come out. It's on Netflix. I suggest to see it. And I've seen a lot of people trying to like critic it, or like fitness people trying to pick it apart, and they're really splitting hairs. I mean, they're annoying their overall message of the movie, and like picking apart like little dinky facts, or like trying to throw really absurd things together and say this is how he's meant this. You know what I mean? It's just whatever. Anyway, I have to say the movie has done wonders, because the two people at work that had seen it now are trying to be plant-based. Starting anyway. You know what I mean? They're aiming for vegan, but you know, they're not there yet. They're changing their diet, which is amazing to me. So, because our interpreters are certified in the state, and that's spoken language interpreters. Our American Sign Language interpreters, some of them have to be certified in every state. Or, you know, I mean, the states have different statutes or whatever, so they have to do different stuff. Which is why I stopped going to sign language, because I was thinking, well, I could be an interpreter for American Sign. This was a while back, and I was like, all that schooling, I don't know if it's worth it. It probably would be if you're really good, but I'm older and I don't know. I'm making excuses anyway. So I think that movie, the powerful message of the movie, is really phenomenal. And I was like, how can I wonder if I can get more people to see it. Because some people are not going to see it. But what I did is I partnered with our training director, or the manager of training, or whatever her title is, and that department. And I said, what does it, because they were wanting ways for ongoing education. So I'm sorry, I kind of slid past that. Because they're certified, they have to get continuing education hours, CEUs, and a certain amount per year, and before their renewal comes up. So I think I got an eyelash in my eye. So I was like, what do I have to do? What does it have to do to be considered qualified continuing education hours? And she said, you can show it and do a Q&A and do a kind of test at the end. And if it's about health, then it'll be continuing education hours in health. And I was like, that's really cool. So I sent her the link to the movie. She's asked me to be the presenter because it was my idea. She said, and then you get to be the presenter and present the training and maybe go across and do it at all the 7 states that we have centers in now, and give it as a training. And I thought, that's amazing. The message that I could get out by just doing that. I'm really excited for what the health to come out, and then the Inconvenient sequel has just come out. So I would like, if I could do it with that one, I'd like to do it Eating You Alive, because it's even more depth. It looks like about health. This is what the health is kind of like the atrocities being committed right to us from organizations that we trust, in the U.S. anyway, and world. I think it's mainly. Oh, sorry, my eye is itching. I know it feels like I always do that when I'm on camera. But the Eating You Alive is really about in-depth health, like even more. I'm just from the previews. I haven't seen the movie. They kind of stopped it on the website, and then they were going to say they're going to release it in theaters. So I'm hoping that comes out in theaters. I'm going to go see Inconvenient sequel probably on Sunday this weekend. So I suggest you do too. If you haven't seen the original, I got the original off Amazon Prime. It was like $4.99 or something like that for the HD version. So I got it from there, and I watched it the other day, and now I'm going to go see the sequel. But I figured, what a great way to get message out. And then I thought it was a cool way for me to get people at work to understand where I'm getting my point of view when I contribute to something that's dear to their heart, their faith, their religion, their spirituality, their belief system. Because it's such a well diverse and we all get along group of people. It's like a family almost. You know what I mean? Even though there's close to 150 people, interpreters alone. We all kind of, not everyone gets totally along, but most everyone gets along, and they kind of understand different belief systems. They don't try and say, well, yours is wrong, mine's right. At least, I mean, they might think that, but they don't say it. And so I thought that was the easiest way to get them to recognize my belief system. And I was hoping that they were going to dive more into my spirituality side so that I could lay that out, because it's illegal to discriminate, and I think that if more people understood more aspects of me, that more awareness would come out, and maybe people that are just as curious because maybe they feel disillusioned by what they've been told or been taught or whatever, and maybe they're off in limbo land like I was at one time, where you didn't think about it, you didn't want to, you just kind of were gliding by without having any to think about what that kind of stuff. And so maybe that'll make him trigger and go, well, maybe I identify with this, or maybe I identify with this, because I'm such an eclectic that, maybe one way or another. I'm not trying to convert people over to be a witch or to be pagan or be a Wiccan or whatever, but I think it would be really cool to be able to discuss my points of view with people that I wouldn't normally do that with. Do you know? So I know I'm getting really, really long, and I apologize, and I just wanted to share that because I was really excited about it. So I will talk to you soon. We have lots of things coming up. Pagan Prides are coming up and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm also getting ready to marry someone from work. She asked me to perform the wedding. So it'll be my first ceremony that I'm an officiant of since I got my license, which was a year ago, 2 years ago, 2 years ago. So it'll be my first official ceremony. And I get to do it. I'm doing a very basic, it's called the simple wedding ceremony, blah, blah, blah. And I know that I'm going to not invoke Christian ideology, even though they're kind of Christian. But I've already discussed that with them, and they're fine. I said I'd rather it be more of a generic thing. I'm not going to say a Bible verse. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm just going to read the basic stuff. She said she wanted it very basic and simple, and in and done, and get it out of the way, kind of thing. That doesn't sound that great, does it? But anyway, so look forward to that. I'm going to try and get it filmed. I'm going to try and have somebody hold my phone and film it. Maybe I'll get a better camera by then, and I can GoPro it. Attach it to something. Maybe get a tripod or something. All right, well, I've babbled enough, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you have comments, please put them in the box below, and I look forward to hearing from you. I'll talk to you soon. Blessed be.